How was yours?
Very quiet. It's always nice to have those days of just quietness.
Hmm.
Did you have a lot of people that you were
Yeah.
interacting with? Yeah. Yeah, had none, zero, zip.
Yeah.
Well, the cat. I had the cat. He
Yeah.
can be a little bit needy sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, well, it's such a pleasure to see you. How are things going?
They're going. We're winding down to the end of the semester, so the kids are kind of over it, but we're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. How about you? You feeling over
Yeah.
it?
Well, I mean, not any more than usual at this time of year.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this? I mean, you're getting kind of at a point where you've been doing this now this year for a fair amount of time. You're not quite halfway through, but you're getting close. How do
Mhm.
you feel about the progress this year? Feel good
Uh,
about it?
I feel really good about the progress. I think the kids are getting it a lot better than they have since we started doing this daily mastery check thing, where they have to practice these topics almost every day. I think they're getting it a lot better.
I agree with you. I mean, research has shown that with mathematics, this really works. And I think that a lot of math teachers hold out hope that they can do this by sending home homework, but it's not going to work. And we know that doesn't work. And yes, that would be ideal, especially when you're given a 45-minute teaching period, but it's just not going to work. They're not going to.
I'm a little disappointed in some of the kids, and I know it's not that they. Some of them, it's not that they won't. So I hate to use the word disappointed, but I'm disappointed when I look at like my mastery tracker and like my thing lights up colors. So like green is they mastered it, and orange is yellow to orange is they're working on it, and red is it's not good. Um, and like looking at topics from the very beginning of the year that we've been practicing all year long, and I still have some kids who are in the red orange area. We should at least be yellow green, and honestly we shouldn't be seeing anything but green at this point for topics from the beginning of the year.
And do you think, I mean, and I appreciate every child is very different and there can be lots of variables here, but do you think that this is sort of a trend these are people who have not really gotten a strong sense that application yields rewards and they're just kind of passively hoping that you're going to shovel it into their brain?
Maybe. That's what I'm saying. There's just some that are just thinking, oh, it's all going to come out in the wash, and I'm not going to go in for extra help. I'm not going to ask for any help in class. When I walk around and I go to try and help them, they don't want my help. But then they're coming back with 50s on their quizzes, and they get 50s because that's the lowest I give them.
Yeah. I have an idea, and again, you might already have these pieces in place. We haven't, gone in deeper than this, but I'll show you something that might be good for students like that. It's really an executive function approach to goal setting.
Yeah.
Where if there's some pieces missing in their progression of thinking, this sometimes is an added step that helps. And the part that really changes is this part here.
Right.
So, I mean, you're already kind of doing this, what is it that I need to address, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the solution might be, do more problems, get help from teacher, use Khan Academy, focus specifically on blah, 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 whatever, right? Plan what to do, half an hour of Khan Academy might be all I need to do. When will I do it? Blah, blah, blah. But this is the part maybe that we're, yes, I'm sure you're saying this to them, but maybe we get them to say it. So what will happen if I don't put that 1/2 hour of time into Khan Academy?
Mm-hmm.
I won't progress. So what can go wrong is I don't do this. So what can you do to change that possibility? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's it. This is intended, and it seems like, wow, why are we going through these little tiny steps? But this is really intended for those students who just can't, who then run into that and like, oh, well, I was going to do it, but I didn't, so it's done. I'm done, And instead, it's like, you readjust. You couldn't get a half an hour in at home, so you're going to come to school in 15 minutes earlier, and you're going to do it then.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's just a thought that this is an approach. I put it together as a form
Right.
And it includes then the reflection piece. What did you actually do? How did you do on the assessment? This would be after they have, seen if there's an impact, right?
Right.
But just
please send that to me.
Yeah.
And because I can add that to their reflection, and like not all of them have to do it, just if they're, like you said. And we started goal setting because I told you I wanted to do the SMART goals after we'd been doing the reflections for a little while to so we've been doing the reflections for about a month now. And then we've moved to goals, and most of the kids seem to be doing it really well. I'm just having some pushback with some of the kids, and I think it's because they didn't understand what I was asking, or they thought that I could be easily misled. So like some of their SMART goals were like, or their action for their SMART goal was, I'm going to go home and spend 45 minutes a day working on math. And I very carefully said, I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah.
I said, are you really going to go home and spend 45 minutes working on math? He goes, I can. And I said, well, I don't expect you to. I mean, that's great if you want to, but are you really going to go home and spend 45 minutes working on math? No, probably not. And I said, well, then you just wasted your time and mine by sitting here and writing that goal. I mean, that's not a realistic thing for you, so I don't know why you put it. I mean, don't put something just to make me feel better. So that's what some of the kids are doing. They're just trying to BS me, I guess, is what one of them said. And I was like, yeah, you're pretty much. And one of them looked at me and just said, well, what if I'm not going to do this at all? I said, you can at least have a goal that is something that you do at school that doesn't have to do with at home that you can accomplish. And he was like, okay, whatever, So I've got some of those kids, but I'm always going to have some of those that are just like, I'm not doing it. But at least you filled out the paper.
What is
need to do a goal.
What does their day look like? Do they have study periods? Do they have these little windows of opportunity?
Yeah. They have one class a week that's 45 minutes long. Mm-hmm. They have it every day. But so like they come back to me once a week and they spend that 45 minutes with me.
Right.
But if they're caught up in science, they could also spend that 45 minutes instead of working on extra science. They can either stay in there and work in math. They can come to my room and work in math. So they have 45 minutes a day that's a study hall basically.
So that could be a goal, that during the X day of the week study hall, I am going to do the following. And maybe if they have like a list of what they're going to do.
Right.
And I agree. I mean, I know that, we're putting an enormous, and at some point we stop and we say this is not reasonable, enormous amount of push into this. But I'm thinking, even if we used a Google Doc with a drop-down menu where they would then select one of the days and then they would select a period, that I'm trying to make your work less, but guide them more to be specific. It's just one thought I had. And again, I agree with you. There's, what are you going to do? But I really think that, one of the pieces that we are both trying to realize here is with the understanding that if they haven't had opportunities in their lives to be forward thinkers or planners,
right,
we are kind of externalizing some of those voices. At what point we get to crazy, by all means, we say enough of that, right? Mm-hmm. But for that child, and they are children, whether or not they think so.
Oh, I call them children.
Yeah. Who has never had that kind of delayed gratification. I mean, education is all about delayed gratification. Yeah. And that's where, some children are so poorly served because they come from families where immediate gratification is really heavily emphasized, and we're in a culture where it's all about, oh, it's Christmas time, buy a car. Oh, it's President's birthday, buy a car. It's, it's all about, what can I do for myself? What is going to feel good, So it's hard. And sometimes you have more leverage with athletes because at least they seem to get it a little bit more. If I really want to shoot good hoop, if I want to make a 3-point shot, I need to practice 3-point shots.
Right. Now, I went through several examples, because I gave them I mean, I completed this form 4 or 5 different ways, and I laid it all out there for them. I said, and I picked the goals based on goals that I thought they should pick in the beginning. I was like, these are some good goals for a lot of you. Some of you need to memorize your parent functions. So your goal, I want to have the parent functions memorized. How are you going to measure it? Well, you'll be able to name all the parent functions from there. I mean, like, I went through the whole thing, and I had to have those conversations with them. It took a long time because they were like, my goal is I want to finish all my assignments. I'm like, but is that realistic? Like, how many missing assignments do you have? Because I'm trying to keep their goals to a week, so we can like do a weekly.
So they're doable, and also because it's exactly that, it's doable. Otherwise, you're like, why am I reconstructing something from 3 weeks ago?
And then it's like they almost got offended, and I'm like, I'm not saying that you can't go home and do all your missing assignments this week, but that's not reasonable, realistic for 30 missing assignments, or just using a random number. I said, why don't we pick 2 assignments? I'm going to get 2 assignments done this week that were previously missing, but I can do more than 2. I said, exactly. So let's pick a goal to start with that you can achieve, and that way you can say, hey, I did more than my goal.
Yep.
Instead of having to go back and going, oh, I didn't hit my goal because I made this outrageous.
Right. Exactly.
thing.
No, great way. And another way maybe to deal with that pushback is to say, okay, so you can do more than 2. So let's say that you come back tomorrow after you've done 2, and we'll readjust your goal higher. It's like, now we're going to show you how to do that, because if you set a goal of 2 and you do it tonight, then we'll go back and readjust the goal, because part of this is that idea that we can readjust.
Yeah.
So long as we're shooting for something, adjustments are made, and adjustments go up as well as down. I think everybody kind of thinks that when they're adjusting goals, they go down, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
So, and it's that impediment piece, that we're really trying to get through to them. And that's why I always look back into that envelope of the school day. And, when they're at this age, you have to rely pretty heavily on them having some self-guidance, unless you have fellow teachers who are in a position to do what I used to prime my teachers to do all the time, which was when they saw a kid that they knew needed to be with another teacher, and the kid was like wandering the hallways, they'd be like, yeah, I heard that Mrs. Jones really wanted to talk to you about blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Because we just never let them, we wouldn't even let them out of the building sometimes. We'd be like, oh, wait, I think so-and-so wanted to see you. But it's hard to make a school that vigilant. Sometimes it works really well. I worked at 2 schools where it worked really beautifully, where everybody very heavily collaborated. We would kind of just say, hey, don't let so-and-so, sneak by you when they are at lunch. Make sure you remind them, please, for me, that they need to see me after lunch or whatever. And it worked, but it's a lot. You have a lot of kids. I just wish we had electric collars. Or, what if, and again, I'm not, I know all of these are make more work for you. The remind system,
right?
It could be generic, and it could just be, a Wednesday blast, because you can organize these so they go automatically out. That just says, midweek, where are you on your goals?
Right. Yeah, and I don't care to remind them daily, and that's what I'm like, guys. This doesn't have to be. Just 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day. And that was one of the first things that asked me was like, well, why do we want to do this? Why? Like you were talking about the delayed gratification. I said, they were like, well, are we going to get something if we complete our goal? And I'm like, that's unrealistic for me to have a goal to reward you, because I don't know what that would look like, because I'm not going to go buy something if you complete your goal. And was like, this goal, the purpose of this is to make you a more independent student and self-guided. What can you do to help you at this time, instead of me having to tell you, Elijah, go and work on domain and range delta math because you keep missing that question on the mastery checks. You can go during ASB, or it doesn't have to be at home. That was their main thing, was like, why do I want to go home and work on math? So it's just been interesting.
Yeah, and I'll stop talking about it, because I know you've covered it all. I just like to chew on ideas, and if that's like trying your patience, by all means say, Cheryl, really enough, and I'll be like, okay, fine. So do you want to think about something completely different for any reason, and something that maybe you can start to cogitate on and think about and plan and roll out later, or focus on just something small? Like last night I met with Amanda, and Amanda's a crazy person, and she finally has, I mean, after almost 2 years, 1.5 years, they finally got Chromebooks.
Yeah.
And so she set a very ambitious goal for herself, which I thought was crazy. I tried to talk her down, and that was that she was going to create 3 modules, including a lot of the videos she was going to make herself in Canvas. And I'm like, you're a crazy person. But I saw her last night, and she's pretty much done what she wanted to do. And now we're talking about some of these pieces that extended, like, can we have some math tasks, some rich math tasks for students that they could work on collaboratively with others who are, tracking and doing fine while, you're working with small groups. And so we're kind of looking at some extensions here that we can focus on.
Okay.
Stuff like that, if you want. Doesn't have to be that big, but.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd like to do something small for now, because we're still trying to work on getting next year or next semester's modules put together.
Yeah. Well, let's think. What are some of the things that you would like? Is there something like you'd like to try that you haven't had a chance to really think about? A choice menu extension kind of thing for your upper level students?
Right, that's what I'm trying to think of, because I do have a lot of the time during that study hall period, they have everything done. And so I usually let them work on other classes while they're coming up. Well, I have everything done in every other class too. And then I know they get tired of being peer tutors.
Yeah. And they shouldn't do that. I mean, I love that we use them, and that's a good use, but I agree. It's leavened with time for themselves to grow, right?
Right.
And what kind of things do you think would be appropriate? Would you want them to be working independently on just developing more knowledge and skills? Would you like them to be working collaboratively to deepen and try their thinking in different kinds of settings?
I'd be okay with that. As I said, a couple of them, I've been trying to give them more practice than anything that they may be struggling in, if they happen to miss anything on the mastery check that day. So it's been kind of like a lot of last minute preparing for them.
Well, I mean, if they know through the system what they didn't succeed in doing, right?
Yes.
And so that would be like the requirement. They do that first.
Right.
And maybe these tasks, I mean, if you wanted, these tasks could also be done independently.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd like to give them some tasks, because we don't do a whole lot of them. We need to do more. But so I think that would be good for them, is some kind of task. And I wouldn't mind it being collaborative, but maybe something that could be worked on either way. Because sometimes one of my classes, there might only be one student who could be working on it. And then in my other, I have several.
And we also could, not just tasks. I mean, there also could be just challenging problems, right? We could also do that where they have a greater challenge. So, I've tried to continue to keep that compendium that I've been putting together up to date and adding to it and keeping it fresh. Mm-hmm. So we could either look at that together, or you could look at that on your own and see if there's something in there. I try to put enough information into the spreadsheet so that you're at least saying, nah. Yeah, I'll check just that one. Okay. Is that helpful to you?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And did I give you your own copy of that?
Can you resend it to me just in case? Because
yes.
I know that I've seen it, but I don't know where it lives.
Okay, absolutely. And also, I update mine, like I've been updating it since last night. So I'd want you to have the updated one anyhow.
Yeah.
And then, that might be, especially since, you're not afraid to try different things, that might be really also an opportunity to always add that last question. Tell me about this task. Did you feel like this, was this interesting? Was this engaging?
Right.
Would you recommend this for your fellow students? And we can also gather then some data on, what it is that they like, because then you might want to integrate some of the tasks just into the content curriculum too.
Right. Yeah, that would be good, because I usually do a lot of different things, and I've not done a lot of different things this year. Like we usually play a lot of games, we do a lot of activities, we do all sorts of stuff. And I got to talking to my co-teacher, Sarah, that came to the program with me. We've not played a game that we like to play, Bonk. It's kind of like Wheel of Fortune. We've not played that any this year, and we usually do. And I don't know why we haven't. I guess we've just been in the thick of it. And then, we've done a couple of different activities, but we've not even done a lot of technology activities. It's just, let's do the math on Excel. That's been about the only technology that we've done besides like their mastery checks, their reflections have been online.
Are they going to be then assessed online this year?
Yes.
So the, let me see if I can look at this so I can be precise. Although I appreciate that this was made for the park assessment, I don't really care. But there's some high school tasks that were done by the Dana Center, which I really like.
Dana Center.
Yeah, that are meant to give students an opportunity to do the work online and have some of those things that happen, like multiple answers, drag and drop, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So those might also be handy for you. There's not a bunch of them, but I can give you what I have.
That'd be great.
Yeah. That always, that's always a nice thing just to build it in. I'm trying to think of what else would be useful. I mean, and there's always that old standby, using one of the problem of the week from that organization that puts up that math challenge every year. They have a new problem every week. Mm-hmm. That could be folded in as just an automatic go-to place for anybody who's like, I'm done. And you're like, I don't have a task running right now, but there's always the problem of the week. It's the link is always there.
And then, I could offer like a couple bonus points if you figure it out.
Oh, absolutely. And what I like about problem of the week, I'm a big fan of them, is that I have found that I can create a lot of interest around it by having it very public, a problem of the week area mm-hmm. in the room. And it tends to be, I'm not going to say all my kids would be attracted to it, but those who like that kind of stuff mm-hmm. and tend to go and see how other people did and what they did.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those other elements where, I've asked you to put in the effort, I'm going to celebrate it. It's absolutely mm-hmm. beautiful.
And how challenging do you make that problem, the problem of the week?
Well, these come from this organization, but we certainly, I'll give you that one. But we could certainly look and see what you felt the caliber of them were.
Right.
I'm just going as usual. Too many words in my brain. I can't remember the name. It's like the Math Olympiad every year. It comes from them.
Right.
And so it's by grade span. So they're probably pretty challenging.
Yeah.
We could also just, select what we think are some good, strong problems. The Massachusetts MCAS questions are probably good ones. I know that they have a lot of advanced level questions in there. It's pretty easy to identify. Mm-hmm. So I think with that, I would never spend too much time
right
worrying about it, because if they pick up one and they're like, not so much, teach them to go to another one, right. Maybe we can actually just print a few and they'd be like, oh, not this one, this one.
Yeah.
And as you know, for what it's worth, people print them as cards and you could have the cards and you could buy them, but I don't know. I'm not as,
I was just saying I could just print them and put them in a binder.
Yeah. And that would also give you an idea of what is attractive to them, what they pick up.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really thought was interesting when I went to, are you familiar with Summit Schools?
I don't think so.
They're like KIPP, they're across the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
And their model started in, I want to say San Francisco, pretty sure it's San Francisco, to all the tech people, right?
Yeah.
And the idea was that students would be totally self-directed online
mm-hmm.
and that they would be pursuing this course. And 70% of their grade is that. Mm-hmm. Them working individually. And there's lots of things built into it, but it's everything is online. I wasn't impressed with the curriculum. I'm not going to say I thought that was good. But then the 30% of their grade and time was where everyone would stop, no matter where you were in the continuum, advanced or not, and do a task.
Mm-hmm.
and the outcomes of that were obvious. That not just the collaboration piece, but that the advanced students are having to explain and dig into their thinking. The students who are behind are being kind of pulled into that.
Right.
And so, some of that I kind of like. They have a very complex rubric for doing it, but which I can get if you ever want to see it. But that idea of weaving in the tasks, I liked a lot. And I liked the idea that students were blended together to do the tasks. I know that, again, you need to have enough time just to teach your content. So it's almost like a luxury. But, maybe weaving, 4 tasks in during the year might be a nice way to change the pace.
Right.
Kind of change.
That's doable. I mean, we've added several days this semester because we've been kind of ahead, because these kids really just are a lot better than the group we had last year. So we have the extra days to do it.
Why do you think that happens? Is it something in the water? I mean, but it does, doesn't it? I mean, does it speak to the fact that they've been tracking along through their whole career with, not necessarily all of the same kids, but a good number of the same kids, and that this pulls them in different directions? Does it speak to the dynamic of the group and what happens when you have a disruptive student in there?
It must. I don't know. That's what I've been working on the last couple of days. Usually the guidance office doesn't let us play with our class schedule a lot, but I talked to the counselor and the principal and got some special permission. So I'm pulling a lot of we're leveling a little bit. Mm-hmm. A lot of my mid upper level kids are going to my first of the day class. And I was wanting them to be switched, but it was just kind of how the schedule fell. The less changes was the easier option. That way I can pull a group of middle to low kids together and kind of slow it down for them because they need a little bit slower.
I'm glad that you've been given that opportunity, because it's often difficult to get that kind of support, where the teacher is saying, I know what's best for the kids, and in this particular circumstances, it would make sense to manipulate it this way. Pretty rare. That's great. I'm wondering how you would feel, and I'm not saying that there's any commitment, especially right now, this is months down the road, in bringing your work on this mastery tracker reflection goal setting system. Mm-hmm. And what you did and what the results are and what you learned to next year and presenting to your colleagues?
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Okay, I'm making some presumptions here, but I was asked to keep this in mind as I worked by the state. But but that doesn't mean they made any commitment that they're continuing next year. They just were like, could you point out the leaders? And I'm like, okay, I will be glad to do that if they are comfortable with that. Yeah. You have that work. Amanda has the work she's done. And then I have an incredibly funky person who's new, Jennifer Hawkins, who is blended beautifully. She's done, her students make Spark videos. I mean, she's so funky. It's great. Mm-hmm. So it just would be nice, I think, for other teachers to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind sharing it all. Yeah, I was just thinking, because I said a lot of what I do is based on that 45 extra minutes. So, and a lot of teachers don't have that. But, I mean, the mastery tracker is not. So, yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. I will let you go, but I will reshare that document with you.
Oh, yes, please.
And do you want it your own copy so that you can add and subtract and color and delete, or do you want access to mine where I will ask you not to do that?
Yes. Send me yours, because I can just make a copy.
Okay.
That way I can see your updates when you update them.
Absolutely. Okay, that's great. Well, so nice to see you. I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, but between then and now and then, I guess that would be more sense. Please don't hesitate if you want to look at a math task together and think it through, or if you're looking for something and you're not seeing it, I might know of it.
Right.
And I'll see you then.
Okay, great.
Bye-bye.